Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 206 of Ukraine War Diaries, done in a form of conversation between Lieutenant Colonel Olexiy Arestovich, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition journalist. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Saturday, September 17th, 1 minute past 10, and it is day 206 with Olexiy Arestovich. Good evening, glad to see you, Olexiy. Yes, hi Mark, good evening. Sorry, finishing my meal, having my dinner late in between the streams and work. We have 120,000 watching us live, 21,000 likes already clicked the button. Again, the usual ask, please share links to that stream with your friends in your social media. Click the like button because Google and all these media, they do not promote anything related to Ukraine war, regardless of which side are you on. Follow the links and subscribe to the Privateer Station if you are listening, watching that in English. What happened during the last day? We would like to hear from you, and we'll represent that on the map. Okay, let's probably open Kharkov region first. Let's zoom in there. That's blue. And I think there are some news there. Evil tongues from the Russian side are stating amazing things. They are reporting that evil Ukrainian forces took Kupiansk on the left bank. Is that another Kupiansk just on the other bank of the river? Yes. There were a lot of quarrels about whether it was taken or not, and you can see it on the map, it's blue. So I don't know anything, I'm not allowed to discuss that, but I can discuss what our foes are posting. And our foes are stating that our troops are marching down south. And if for a second we allow that in some virtual space that could have happened, that means that our command, or whatever virtual command in that version of reality, then our command decided, instead of moving forward with some murky perspectives of maybe hitting a prepared or somewhat prepared defense line further out on the border with Lugansk region, our command in this case decided to expand the board that we have on the left bank, the amount of lands captured. So, and that's all happening near Liman? No, that's all to the north. That's Kupiansk and down south from Kupiansk. Towards Borovoye, right. Borovoye is that last red protrusion around the bank of the river, and their evil tongues are telling that they're getting pushed out. Also, let's take a look at Liman. Liman is the 6 o'clock Russian side of that map, red-colored. Russian correspondents are posting that there is Yarovaya village right next to the blue tentacle that Ukraine army goes over Svetogorsk, and there is a lot of fighting happening around Yarovaya. When Russian sources are stating that it's very heavy fighting, 98% out of 100 means that there is no fighting there anymore, and that Russia has already withdrawn from that area. I don't know if that is correct, but I discuss what they're posting. And the map, by the way, is reflecting that Dibrova, Starokaravana, and Churova were also taken by the troops advancing towards the Russian side. And we're not clarifying which troops are they. So, and that the battle is actually on the outskirts of Liman, not Liman territory region, but the outskirts of the town. And if one can imagine that this is true, then the command of the side that is attacking Russians is making systemic efforts, and they continue to proceed forward and push forward and resolve the tasks of this counteroffensive. And if Liman will be taken, then it will be real funny for Russian troops over there. But it depends upon how northern path south along the river will be, if it will be successful, and then we'll see if our jump towards Svatova will be successful. Because if you follow that red line on the right side of the map, that's their next line of defense: Svatova, Kremenaya, Lysychansk. And as we discussed yesterday, we either break through, or if we don't have enough forces, we basically go to the positional fighting along that line, or we push our front line further out to the east. And then depends if they actually accumulate enough forces and we go into more stationary fighting. Now let's take a look south. Bilogorovka, by the way, see that little protrusion up on the 12? That used to be red. It's not red anymore. It's grayish, and actually it's sort of taken. I remember we discussed Bilogorovka after Lysychansk. So that's an interesting protrusion right under Bilogorovka, and both sides like cutting that off, and that's very, very close to Lysychansk. I should remind that when that situation was the other way, there was a lot of panic on our side, in our media. There is another Bilogorovka close to Berestove, near the first red arrow. Yep, so things are happening, and, interesting motion. Further down south is Donetsk front. They're still trying to create some sort of offensive there, trying to push to Gorlovka, Bakhmut, New York, Mariinka, Peski, Spartak, all the same places. The guys decided to waste all the infantry they have in those villages. Good luck to that. Then we'll look at Kherson region. By the way, we hit Melitopol before Kherson. One of the biggest bases they had in Melitopol has burnt down to the ashes. I don't know what they're calling a military base in these conditions, but let's say it's aggregation of troops and equipment in place. And we destroyed that. Probably in 2-3 days we'll have more stats about how many of them perished there. As for Kherson direction, we hit them in Novokakhovka seriously. Good warehouse, according to the time and the length, how long it was exploding after. And there was one more serious that I noticed, but there were more. I think I'm only telling about a half of them. This has become rather routine, but by the way, that routine is the thing that stops Russian potential in that area. We'll be pressing, it'll take some time, but the result is still already decided. And it will be in favor of Ukraine, of course. Izium, we continue to exhume the bodies, mass graves there. Some people are saying already there may be more victims than in Bucha. So right now I've seen the number 440. Yep, that's Izium right by the river turn. And there is a possibility we discovered a secondary burial site. That's not the only one. I hope they're wrong, but yeah, that hand of a 17-year-old boy. Many of you have seen the photo of that. Yeah, it was on different Telegram channels and the media of a dead boy that was killed by the occupants. And in Russia, they are starting already putting the usual facade saying that Ukraine is preparing that media display that Ukrainians killed their own people, and now creating another demonstration, and it is as fake as Bucha was fake. That's the standard Putin's regime position. Although Borrell said that, yes, everybody will be found and prosecuted. That's the European side. And it's rather easy, by the way, to determine the conditions, situation when they were killed. You can determine the time frame of death, and you can determine the reason of death. And again, we see dead children, we see torture rooms with blood. These people don't seem to know any other way. And we've seen some recordings, those people who evacuated, that they were tortured by FSB officers. Yep, who else? In Kherson there was some shooting tonight. Russia is stating they're doing some counter-terrorism activities, but I think it's their internal troops duking out, probably on ethnic or something. Yeah, I noticed in the news, in the Russian media, they said there was a counter-terrorist operation in Kherson. There was a diversion group. Yeah, diversion group. Why would the Ukrainian diversion group fight their way down to Kherson? We don't need that. We have HIMARS, right? Right. Recently, we hit the office of Strimousov on their Russian implant on that occupied territory leader, and after that, we decided to send diversion group. No, yeah, I think they're shooting each other. All right, we want to show another recording. I had no time to show you before the stream. We'll try to put it up. On it, this is a Odessa blogger, I think, who is fighting somewhere on the front. And on that video, he has some Chinese ammo for mortars. And it looks like it's Chinese mortars, Chinese ammo for mortars. So Russian army doesn't have a 60mm mortar, or used not to have. You think that's a provocation? Yeah, I don't know. Do you think it's your people did some fake? No, I don't think it's our people who did that. Could be a Russian-made fake. Okay. What if it's from North Korea? Because North Korea has some Chinese ammo. What if North Korea supplied these things to Russia? What if these indeed are Chinese ammo? Could North Korea supply some of what they have to Russia? Theoretically, yeah, they could. And China theoretically could also. Mortar, China, 60mm caliber. Interesting, yeah. I'm following the news here. It looks like it was on the battalion level tool, and it did hit our news on the military side, yes. So we cannot exclude that. Interesting, yeah. Unless we have not seen them before, but you know, Iranian drones are flying, so maybe Chinese or Korean tools are here in the war and they're using them. I think China would also be interested to investigate who supplied that. And China supplies ammo to many countries. They're all throughout Asia, in the East. I'm not even talking about Kalashnikovs that Chinese are making. But Chinese ammo is also aplenty. So it's interesting if your troops captured them on the front. It does beg for some investigation. Yeah, I think China will be the first one to investigate the details of who supplied that, because supply of ammo to the biggest conflict in Europe is probably the last thing China wants right now. Some people are telling us that it was Radionovka village near Melitopol, and we hit brigade level Ford operating base, and it's burning and exploding, and there was an ammo dump next to. So, like Girkin said, that communication with 11th Corps disappeared after, and that actually happened right after we hit the Ford operating position. So, I think we know why it disappeared. Kherson, I also get notes. People are on the ground are telling that they're just recording a video. After that hit on Stremosov office, they decided to play some capture cowboys and Indians and captured as if they captured some diversion group. So yeah, it's Occupant Production Inc. Okay, I hope you heard today that Biden in the interview claimed today about the nuclear threat from Moscow. He was answering different questions, and he warned that if anything like that happens, then after the Second World War, Moscow will see what will happen. And it was a little hard to understand what he was talking about, but he did talk in that direction. It appears that some people do worry about that in Washington. I think this is a special media injection done in the Western press and into the Russian-speaking group of the world, about 300 million viewers altogether. What will be if the West has to use the nuclear weapons? In my opinion, the West is not really afraid any longer of that. They try to avoid that, the nuclear question, but I think they made a decision a long time ago. And they probably not indeed participating in the war in Ukraine with nukes, but likely they will somehow affect Russian nuclear potential that may cause trouble. So I think they do have some solutions for that eventuality. Do you think that can be linked to messages of Antonov, the ambassador of Russia in Washington, that if you cross the red line, you will become the part of that conflict? Yeah, so you think you guys will get ATACMS, 300-kilometer range missile? Because before that, Russia did press these buttons and these missiles were not given to Ukraine. So I'll say another thing. What is ATACMS 300-kilometer radius? It is like iPhone 8, essentially. American industry is not really making 300-kilometer ones already. America is already producing 500-kilometer reach. So essentially, when Ukraine is asking for these missiles, we're basically asking them to stop the production and start making an older version. Americans basically responding that, hey, we have some in stock, but not much, and what if we give you 500 instead? So, maybe 300 will not even be a question. Maybe it is being circumvented by a better technology. I don't know. We've been live for about 19 minutes. We have 362,000 viewers watching us live, and over 100,000 click the like button. I have a big ask to our viewers. Please share links to that stream on your social media everywhere. Share it with your friends. Make sure those who need to see that do see that stream. And of course, please subscribe to our channels. If you are watching that in English, please subscribe to the Privateer station. We would be very thankful to you if you subscribe instead of watching us without that. Feygin Live, Olexiy Arestovych, and the Privateer station. The links are in the description. All right, let's talk a little further. There is some news that a couple villages in Belgorod region in Russia were shelled. One person died, two were wounded during the shelling of a couple villages from the side of Ukraine, said the Minister of Health of that region. So, can we think that that situation with the war that is being waged on the territory of Ukraine, for the most part, eventually leads to the situation when the towns around the border are getting shelled on both sides? And one can think that maybe they were authorized by the Ukrainian side. I just want to get an answer to that. Did you say the Minister of Health of Belgorod region? They have a Minister of Health? Yeah, in every federation subject, they do have their own minister. Yeah, they have regional government in Belgorod. You guys are living so wide. Interesting. You get ministers in every little region. Yeah, every little meerkat gets his own position in the administration. And yeah, he's not too big of a position, but they do have such a bureaucrat, I think. Some lady, whatever, but they didn't make a statement. I am kind of flabbergasted by this shining perspective. Why don't we do that in Ukraine? We could have a Minister of Defense of Kharkov region, a Minister of Health of Kharkov region. No. Ukraine is a more uni-center country. Russia formally is a federation, and each federative subject has its own government, even though it's a nominal thing and it hasn't worked in recent years. Yeah, I'm just amazed at the opportunities. I should have asked to be appointed as a Minister of Culture or something. Well, if their Minister of Health said that this is what happened, we need to pay attention to that. But I think these are some booms happening over the villages because Ukrainian side is not targeting any of the Russian territory. Could have been their own troops coming in and leaving the territory because they are capable of doing a lot of things. And they usually blow up villages and shoot civilians, so perhaps they didn't realize where they were. Yeah, we somehow play down the situation of the conflict unfolding between Belgorod region, Voronezh region, and other borderline Russian side regions between each other. We don't know why they're shooting each other, but it's amazing that they keep exploding villages on each other's territories. Just amazing why they're shooting their own population. Okay. Politico, American media, there's actually a European version of that France is doing some specialized training for Ukraine military. And it states, it quotes the Minister of Defense in France, and he's saying that we're not going to disclose all details, but we are providing additional training for Ukraine warfighters in France. So it appears that France is indeed changing their position towards being more engaged in helping Ukraine. And there is a principal difference between the first part of war and now. So indeed, there is some training and France is involved. Or if you know. I don't know if France is involved and how, but I know that Macron's statement about the Izum burial and dead civilians was pretty harsh. He said the guilty part will be identified and punished. So, after these words, you cannot just drop it. As a leader, you will have to follow through, right? Because you will be asked questions at different hearings. What other steps have you done besides just making a statement? France is one of the big countries in Europe, one of the leaders of European Union, and he could, of course, point and say, yeah, we're training. At least we're helping this way and that way. because otherwise he will be facing other uncomfortable questions asking, oh, you're just running your mouth and you're not really supporting. Look at Scholz, he is already at least giving Gepard tanks. Where is the military honor and greatness of France? So his opponents will be pushing to that, and that's a good answer. We are training Ukrainians, and I suspect French representative probably said something like that in regards to their own internal agenda and discussions of how France is involved. Well, in any case, this is a statement of a politician which is weighted and pointed in its direction. So one can say France is really trying, and we are thankful to France for that. Okay, so we've been discussing the discussion about supply of missiles for Ukraine and Russian resistance to that. Dmitry Kuleba, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, already responded to Russian discussions about not giving missiles of a higher range to Ukraine. He stated that it is being discussed and it is very likely to be resolved positively. I'll just read that news and quote that RBC reported that America is discussing a possibility to supply longer-range missiles for HIMARS, and they quoted Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, who thinks that this question will be discussed to its end and the decision will be positive. So I think Moscow is reacting to something that is already inevitable. And they're basically reacting to that publicly when there is no other way for them to prevent or try to prevent that. I think they got some rather solid information that this likely will be happening. And I should remind that HIMARS have 129, 166, 190 something, 210, 220. There is a whole array of different missiles. So it doesn't mean that it'll be 300 or 500 kilometers. If they just give us 160, that will add to our capabilities. It's not 200, but 160, that's a good range. So one needs to dig deeper into the nomenclature. And first of all, probably some people will feel that on their heads and in their offices, and then in the occupant offices, and then eventually we can spill that in the news. And that information is worth a lot of money, because it'll definitely cause a public resonance. And I think it is also a strategy how to unfold that news. One thing is when it's quoted that, yes, this is what we're going to supply, and then in a month maybe there'll be some reaction. But you may cause a bigger splash if you first of all hit something with it, and then you state, by the way, here is what we have now. So let's hope they'll feel that pain soon. And they'll have to swallow that. Two other news. Nancy Pelosi flew to Yerevan. She is the Speaker of the American Congress and representative in Mutual Defense Agreement, the Russian side organization. He is stating that he is targeting a possibility to resolve the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan peacefully. However, the visit of Nancy Pelosi to Yerevan is a rather big factor in this game, because she demonstrated that several times that situation does change after her visit. Now we can discuss in which direction it'll shift. But what do you think about the joint security agreement that Russia has with some of its neighbors? I think we know what's unfolding there. They're kind of falling apart. What about the American participation in that conflict? Yeah, yeah, that's mutual security organization that Putin originally had with several neighbors. I don't think it's valid anymore because now Russia, instead of regular army, is basically recruiting inmates who are serving time for serious murder and crime. And by the way, dear Russians, you should think perhaps about building self-defense groups and finding weapons, because these inmates are very likely to end up on the inner front as well at some point. And I think all these visits and all these discussions around Armenia is attempts of different sides to bend Pashinyan to make a decision one way or another. I'm sorry to interrupt you. They really were against Pelosi when she visited Taipei. And now she all of a sudden is right here. Yeah, right, we talked about that. Nothing can stop a woman who already purchased a new swimming suit. So they sent the heaviest artillery that they could to Taiwan back in the day. That was Nancy Pelosi, the artillery that saw Reagan back in the day, right? So she was there to resolve Taiwan, and now, or at least support Taiwan, and now she's being sent to Armenia. So you think it's a message, stop toying with Kremlin. You probably won't get anything from it. Go sail on your own and figure out your new situation. Because basically, a Kremlin security organization is no more. And I'm here, and let's maybe start looking at the friendship opportunities and perhaps making money off that oil pipeline. Why are you guys resisting that? The whole Armenian population is basically being held hostage by people who were in power for the last 10, 20 years. And should you all suffer, indeed, for their decisions and their willingness to fight and earn Russian money? And I think when she got there, she basically outlined that same perspective, that Kremlin will be losing the power in that region, and you guys need to discuss and sit down at the negotiation table together. We'll support you if you need to. We'll give you some guarantees about your territorial sovereignty if you want to. Especially if you have the version, if that version is true that you voiced, that Armenia is trying to be coerced into being a Russian satellite state. So I think it's true. I think that exists, and then in this case she could have come there to outline different options for them. Option 1, option 2. Running geopolitics is not too hard. You just need to do things the way it is right to do and don't do the way it is wrong to do them. And then there is a conflict between Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. From Kyrgyzia, I'm getting messages that Moscow provoked that conflict. We haven't looked into details. I don't know if we'll do a special stream about that. Everything is fleeting. It's not continuing. It was just a conflict that broke out for a few days. So it's funny though, two countries, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, they are both members of Kremlin security organization, and these two countries killed hundreds of people on the border in that little conflict. That is probably a result of Moscow losing its influence everywhere. Yep, these are smaller size quarrels that are maybe hundreds of years old for local territory. Interesting that it is done right next to Shanghai Support Organization Summit in terms of timing. So I wonder if somebody did that in order to provoke some reaction from SCO, Shanghai Security Organization. I don't believe that this will grow into a big conflict. If this is inspired by something, then Moscow is probably playing that. And Moscow is definitely losing their position of arbiter in this conflict, so I think they may also be bringing up these issues to see who can give them guarantees. Whoever does that will have a position of power. By default, it could have been Putin's regime, but I don't think they have capacity now to do that. And if this is just a coincidence, then it's nothing really. Of course, it's sad when people die and perish in these conflicts, but it also could have been just a local coincidence. Okay, we've been live for about 35 minutes. We probably have another 5 left. 404,000 are watching us. Over 130 of you clicked the like button. I remind you that despite of it being Saturday, please share links to that stream and subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the privateer station. As a reaction to some statements by Putin, Zelensky offered to deblocade the transit of Russian fertilizer through Ukraine territory in exchange for Ukraine prisoners of war, for Ukraine soldiers. So I'm quoting Zelensky. He is eager to open that pipeline and allow export of Russian ammonia to Europe in exchange for release of all the prisoners of war that Russia currently holds. Do you think it's trolling? No, I don't think so. It is difficult to troll on the matter of prisoners. It's not about prisoners. It's not about people captured. It's about Putin claiming that they don't have an opportunity to sell grain and fertilizer and others, and he's just insisting that needs to be resolved. So do you think Moscow can take that condition? I think Moscow, if they put that topic as an important one, the transit of ammonia, they could have brought this matter up. It is not necessarily going to fly, but they still, can make such an offer and see what happens. By the way, is there anything happening with Azov troopers? With exchange, you mean? Yeah, with negotiations. I don't know. I know that, according to the words of our president, we captured several hundreds of prisoners in Kharkov region, so we can probably trade them for at least several hundreds of hours. Somehow I think that by the end of this war we'll have an exchange fund, so to say, 3 times bigger than the Russian exchange fund for the prisoners. And, our treatment of prisoners is very humane. And I think in Russia, the more they lose, the more careful will be behaving themselves with our prisoners. That's another reason why we need to be strong and to continue our offensive, because we gather more prisoners and we get Russians to be more willing to negotiate. All right, we've been 38 minutes live. A couple good news at the end. I understand it's war, right, but Kiselov, one of Russian propagandists, got his vehicle burned down in Crimea. Did you do that? No, you didn't. Okay. Tell us who else will get his car burned. We'll tell now, and tomorrow somebody will burn it and claim that it's Feigin and Arestovych. Oh, Mark, I know why it burned. It burned because it was so sorry for her master's actions. He has no shame. No, his face is shameless. But his vehicle could have, She got too ashamed of her owner and just burst into flames. Who's gonna be next? Simonyan's vehicle? Yeah, I know. It's interesting coincidence with these people. Their vehicles are burning, Some of them are actually jumping out of their windows.
Плакал в скорой тоже, наверное, от стыда, я так подозреваю.
Ну, все говорят, что это якобы более ранняя запись Стримоусов. Вчера ты его назвал Спермоусом, и это ушло в народ. Ты в курсе?
Stremousov, remember there was a video of him crying near the ambulance. Somebody said it's an older video and they uncovered the original, so that video was from the older recording. And did you know you mentioned yesterday you by mistake called him Spermosov instead of Stremousov, and that kind of went viral. So and people are now calling him a Spermosov character. And I think that feeling of shame will eventually spread from their vehicles to other properties and also geographically from Crimea to Leningrad, Kaliningrad, and yeah, their equipment and property will be crying fiery tears. Another question, how are you doing tomorrow? Do you have other things? You're not coming tomorrow? Yeah, no, I'm not coming tomorrow. Okay, our next stream will be Monday with you. We'll have others tomorrow. 407,000 watching us live. 140 clicked the like button. Big request to all of you, please leave more likes and share more links. And of course, do subscribe to Feygin and Arestovich and Privateer Station. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you Monday. Bye.